Good morning, Carole.
Hello, Joanne. So this is a huge thank you to Joanne for joining us today, because she's all the way from the United States of America, so it's early morning for her.
Yeah.
And she's also had a bit of a disaster today with electric power cuts and things. So
Can you hear the other computer? It keeps coming on and going off now all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Right on 8 o'clock. So if it keeps that up, Carole, actually, maybe I should try and switch it off right now.
It's all right. Just leave things as they are. We'll be good.
Okay.
So just a quick introduction, I guess. So it's my name's Carole Randall, as you can see. I'm a SERPA-trained practitioner, and I work with clients who've had long-term symptoms of unexplained origin and also with chronic pain. And the lovely Joanne and I met in 2020. And without putting too fine a point on it, you were in a little bit of a mess, weren't you, really?
Absolutely, I was. Yeah, I didn't know my head from my butt.
Yeah. So, you know, on the symptom sheet, you had headaches, sore throat, swollen glands, gas and bloating, knee pain and swelling, wrist pain, foot and ankle pain, lower back and hip pain, chronic fatigue, restless leg syndrome, intermittent all over tenderness, sleep apnea. And you kind of managed all of this yourself for about 10 years, seeing various consultants, GPs, naturopaths, neurologists, psychiatrists.
Yeah.
And in your own words, this is what you said to me. At the age of 19, I really started to struggle with fatigue. But by the age of 23, I was sleeping 22 hours a day and had headaches 24/7 for months. And that went on for at least 2 years. I felt like I was slowly dying and I didn't want to live. I still pushed myself to work and I suffered horribly till the age of 52.
Yeah.
You've got your tissues handy. I said, have some tissues handy.
Yeah. It's weird how that floods back, and I realised how rough it was, and how did I manage? It feels very sad. I feel very sad for that person. I'm not her anymore. I might have a few little setbacks, but that's because I've just done too much or pushed myself a little bit too hard. I know now I have to pace myself, thanks to Carole, because I just didn't know how to do that. So working with you taught me, well, you just gave me so many tools. But I know I was like a sponge because I was so desperate after paying. In America, it's very expensive for healthcare, and the type of care I needed with the naturopaths and things like that, it's not covered on insurance, so everything was out of pocket. But even that wasn't really getting me to where I needed to be, and I knew there was a nugget there that was missing. And it wasn't until I met you that the light bulb went on. And I felt fantastic. Yes, I know I went through some roller coasters figuring things out, and it does take time. But what a difference. I feel such a much happier person now. I don't feel depressed. I don't have to take medicine for depression. I don't take medicine for like gastric issues. I don't take medicine for pain. My headaches are few and far between. The pain, actually, it's funny, just a few weeks ago or a couple of months ago, I noticed I was walking around and I was like, oh gosh, this feels really good. And I realized, gosh, I don't have pain in my feet while I'm walking. I was sort of blown away because it's like, gosh, this pain has been with me for as long as I can remember. And it was like it had miraculously just disappeared. But again, I think it's all down to the help of you, Carole, to getting me where I needed to be today.
That's very kind of you to say, but I suspect that a lot of it had to do with you as well. Are we able to roll things back a wee bit and just kind of give people a bit of an idea of how you got to that place kind of at the age of 19? What's been happening for you growing up?
Yeah, well, my parents broke up actually when I was 7, but that seemed to sort of be an issue right up through when I was up to 19. But then on top of that, I had I had a breakup with a boyfriend, and then started dating somebody that was a total narcissist and just a very mean, cruel person. And that's where I think things started to go downhill fast. That's when I started to notice the fatigue more so. Then I think where I was working, it was a little bit of a toxic environment. And I felt really, really lost. And I had an opportunity to come to the States to be an au pair. And because of this new relationship that was very toxic, and he was stalking me and just not leaving me alone, I decided to come to the States because I figured this is one way to get away. And I came over. My mum wasn't happy. My dad was fully supportive. But when I came to the States, for the first, I think it was at least 4 months before I met friends. So I felt very isolated and I felt very depressed. But while I was working there, I noticed the fatigue was actually getting worse. And I pushed through like I've always done. I just pushed through and like made things happen. Then after my year of being an au pair, I actually met then who was to be my future husband. So I sort of jumped out of a frying pan into the fire with this gentleman because he was also a narcissist, but also had other issues such as drug and alcohol addiction, gambling addiction, which I think once I found out that he was a drug addict, I think my world sort of came crashing down because I really, really felt lost. And that's when I started to notice I was having headaches 24/7 and I was sleeping 22 hours a day. He would have to wake me up to eat and drink. I managed to keep a restaurant. I was a cleaner at the restaurant because that's all I could do. I couldn't manage a full-time job. And I did that for a while. And it wasn't until my parents came to visit me. My dad knew something was very wrong and asked my sister to come out to see me. And I started to see doctors and nobody was really telling me. They just said, oh, you're abnormal to borderline. And I kept thinking, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. And I had an MRI and they found that I had an enlarged pituitary gland with microadenomas, which were causing the headaches because it was pressing on the back of my eyes. And I remember them giving me strong pain medicine to stop the headaches. But even in my sleep, I remember feeling the headaches. And it got to the point that my mom came to visit and she looked at me and said, I know exactly what's wrong. You need to come back to England and we need to get this sorted. And so that's what I did. I came to England. But while I was there, my dad collapsed at work and I happened to be there, luckily, and went to the hospital with him in the ambulance. And the shock, they told me he wasn't coming back, that he'd had a massive aneurysm. And I think from there, I was even more lost. And I've struggled, just with the fatigue and stuff. But I'd never really dealt with anything. I think I'd learned how to push down emotions and things and just keep on trucking. Because I think that's what my family did. I think that's what my mum and my dad did. And so I would just keep on going. And also, maybe it was also to save face, I think. Like, Joanne can't be weak. Joanne was the fit athletic one at school. Joanne's always a go-getter. So there was no way I could let this mask slip, I guess. And so that I've always pushed through. And I have up until 2 years ago when you taught me how to calm everything down. Let's slow everything down. Because I still find that I have those habits where I just want to keep going and I want to push through. But I've learned that's not the best thing, because I know I'm going to end up where I was.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing some of that. Could you kind of give us some of those experiences you had perhaps with the medical profession, you know, this constant external search that, you know, trying to find an answer, and it's so difficult, isn't it? Because you get pushed around kind of from pillar to post, don't you? Medicated, etc.
After my dad passed away, my boyfriend at the time, we ended up deciding to move to Arizona. And while we were here, it was like, okay, get new doctors. I'll start seeing a doctor. And I was seeing a doctor, and every time I went back, it's weird, because I just felt like I wasn't being heard. I felt like I was a hypochondriac. He did test me for some things. And I found out that I had Epstein-Barr, and I was like, oh, what's that about? And it made sense about that chronic fatigue at first. I thought, oh, maybe that's what I have. But they usually say you have it for about 6 weeks and then it's gone, but it stays in your system. But I would constantly go back because I was just so tired. And then I was starting to have stomach issues and allergies. I would have hives, and they would break out for no reason. I could even have a sip of water, and all of a sudden I'd start scratching all over my body. I know it's probably not one of the symptoms I told you, but I struggled with that for 11 years. But this doctor just kept giving me pills. And in the end, I was actually on about 22 pills a day.
Wow.
And I just wanted to throw in the towel. I just didn't want to be here. And a friend of mine said, you know what, come see my doctor. So I went to see this other doctor. He was amazing. He said, right, let's start over. Let's wean me off some of these things. Let's get you right back down to what you absolutely have to have. And then let's see where we are. And luckily, then I think I was just on my thyroid medicine and then the allergy medicine for the hives. And I coped with that for quite a while, but I still had this fatigue, just awful fatigue. Again, still pushing through. And then as time went on, the gentleman that I was with, we got married, because that was one of my dad's wishes, that all his 3 girls were happy and married. So I did it. I was looking back, it's like, oh, Joanne, you should not have done that. But it's okay, because in a way, I think if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be, again, hit where I am today. So I'm very grateful for all my lessons and things. I'm just trying to think. So after seeing him, and then I was going up and down with the weight thing was going. So I was trying to get help with that. And it got to a point, my marriage, we were only married 2.5 years, but we were together 6.5 years. I just knew I just had to cut the dead weight, because it was very draining on me. I was very successful at JP Morgan Chase Bank. And he was just making life very difficult. So I went through an awful divorce. In fact, he literally, I think I actually finally cut the strings, was it last year? I think it was. But I felt like I needed to know where he was. You know that saying, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Mm-hmm. I had to know where he was and what was happening, because he did stalk me for a very long time, which was draining. I continued to look for help. I started to find this new word, functional naturopathic doctor. And I was like, oh, this is what I need. And started to pay all this money, and tried one doctor, and I felt a little bit better. But then it was so expensive, I couldn't keep going. And I just felt like they just wanted to put me on supplements all the time. I was told, okay, you need to change your diet, which I did. Mm-hmm. That helped a lot, but it still wasn't what I needed. So then I tried a different functional doctor. Same thing, I did set up a program with them, worked with them, did a different diet. They're like, okay, yeah, we need to, you've got SIBO, so we need to fix this. So I worked on that. Didn't lose any weight, didn't really feel that much better, felt very depressed. Found another naturopath, worked with them for about a year, was having acupuncture, taking supplements. I sort of felt better. I was not out of the woods with depression. I just still felt tired, still felt like I was pushing myself. So I got away from that. And it wasn't till my sister, Tracy, told me about, maybe you want to get a coach. And that's sort of when I found you. I think I was just about to go to medical school.
Yeah.
I found you, and that's where I noticed a big shift. Just starting to, I think it was actually within that first 2 sessions, there was just something you said to me where the light bulb went on. And it was funny because it's like, okay, it's not, there's other things to this whole picture, this golden nugget that I was looking for. Because I remember being on the internet, just searching. And as soon as I thought, well, that sounds right, like, oh, yeah, that matches fibromyalgia. I felt better, but I just still didn't feel understood or heard until I came to you. But you helped me realize there's other things that go on in our subconscious that affect our body and the pain. And that's where I knew, oh, wow, this is what I sort of knew, but I couldn't put my finger on it. You helped me figure it out. It's like you helped me go have that light bulb moment and shine the light.
So lots of stressors, one thing kind of piling on top of another, no time in between to kind of sift it through or sit with it and feel it.
No.
Being that perfectionist, that overly responsible person, very committed, all those lovely, personality traits that we know go kind of hand in hand with this whole TMS journey that we're on. Yeah,
I've learned that. That was definitely obviously something that I'd learned maybe from my family. I think and now when I look back, my mum worked really hard and barely ever took time sick, and my dad worked really hard and he barely ever took time sick. Even when he had TB, I mean, it was his boss that said, Malvin, you need to go to the doctors because you look like death warmed over. He wouldn't have gone. He would have still pushed through. And so I think that was obviously my makeup, because my mum and dad did it. Like, I just needed to do it. You need to suck it up and just keep going. Not that they said that to me. I don't remember them saying that, but their actions obviously had an impression on me. And I just thought I had to do that. That was the way life was and how you're supposed to live it. And then my dad paid for it, at the age of 50, because I think he pushed and pushed himself until it took him from us, because he was a trooper. He would never give up. And I was, until I realized something's got to shift, else I am probably going to end up the same way he is.
Yeah. So Chase Morgan Bank, very responsible job. And then going down, retraining.
I did the aesthetics. I decided to leave Chase, put the investigations and the corporate stress behind me, and decided to go into like medical laser, so skin treatments, laser hair removal. But what I found with that, everywhere I went, there wasn't any medical benefits. You would work really hard. I barely would get breaks at one company that I worked at, and I'd be so dehydrated. I just knew this isn't good. And then I was working in really hot conditions, and it's supposed to be like an air-conditioned room. So what they were doing actually in this particular environment was illegal. And it was a doctor I was giving treatment to that said, you do realize this is an illegal operation. And I was absolutely petrified. And told the company. And it's funny how they do things here. It's like, oh, just give him more free treatments. Like, let's shut them up. And that seems to be what I see a lot. Let's just keep them quiet. Let's give them more for nothing, and then maybe they won't say anything. And that didn't sit right with me. And so I left there, was trying to figure out what do I do next, and I actually decided to go back to school for aesthetics, so skincare, but not on the medical side. I did that because I was in school for at least 7 months, And then while I was in school, I came down with valley fever, which is it's from the spores when they have the monsoons here.
Yeah.
There's fungus in the spores in the dirt that's flying around, and I had obviously inhaled it and ended up really sick for a few weeks. Luckily, I didn't have to restart school. But man, again, it was like, I know I've only got this much time. I have to be better, and I will go. And I did. I remember going to school still coughing and things, but pushing through as you do.
As you do,
yeah. And then was looking for a position. Found a really lovely, actually, when I was doing laser with the previous company, there was a doctor that I'd made friends with, and he wanted me to go and work for him. And I was about to work for him in the October, and he actually passed. He died in a plane crash, and that I was like taken aback. I've actually had some, there's been a lot of people that have died that I've met over here in the States, some very unfortunate circumstances. And I think actually, when I actually think about it now, it's like that takes a toll too. You know those people, you love those people. It's losses that I think can affect you and sort of rock you off, a steady stage. So that happened, and then I think I felt lost for a little while, and then I ended up taking a position at Massage Envy, and I loved that job. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and then we kept having management changeover. I ended up having to go out for a shoulder surgery because I'd torn a rotator cuff. And while I was out on medical leave, and actually this happened to my dad too, she put my position up on the board while I was on medical leave. And luckily the girls that worked for me in that department contacted me and said, I didn't know you were leaving. I said, what do you mean? She said, your position is on the notice board and I was like in shock. And I remembered going into a depression thinking, gosh, this is what happened to my dad right before he died.
Yeah.
I'm not having this. And so I waited literally 2 weeks before my medical leave was up. And then I sent in my resignation. And the new manager was like harassing me, trying to ask me why. And I had explained that, hey, I know my job was on the board. You didn't tell me. There was a big mix up. I'd sent her my new email address to communicate with me, and she'd obviously still used an old one. So there was a bit of a miscommunication, but I just didn't like how she handled everything anyway. And I was like, no, I'm getting out of that. It's another toxic environment. I need to come out. And then I think I hadn't worked for a while. It was like I knew I needed to like settle down and figure out what I wanted to do. And then my lovely friend Susan Rogers, she said, hey, you know what? I can get you a grant to go to school for the medical school. And so I decided to do that because I've always been interested in the medical side of things. And it was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go help people and make them feel better. And so that's when I started that. And I think that's about the time that we met, Carole. But you realized I was exhausted. I was pushing myself with homework and stuff, and it just wasn't really the right thing. And I think with all the stress, I'd gained 30 pounds in a month. And so I noticed already, oh gosh, I'm so heavy. I can't stand for very long because my back starts to hurt. But you helped me really realize that it really wasn't for me, that I'd just be spending more of myself, but not really getting anything back. So I realized that, okay, this isn't for me. The environment it just wasn't good. And where I was an extern, it was very toxic, unfortunately. And I realized, okay, yeah, no, don't do this, and just keep doing what Carole says, like, let's slow everything down. Let's calm everything down. Let's ground, and then just go from there. And so, yeah, for the last 2 years, I've been practicing that. I know I've probably had some hiccups along the way, but you've pulled me right back. And I think you've probably had to do it quite a few times. But I did realize, okay, Joanne, just hear what Carole's saying. Like, listen, take this in. And I think that's what's made all the difference. And I think it does matter where the person is mentally. But yeah, those little golden nuggets you kept giving me have really, really helped. Like, they've been instilled in me now that I know I won't do more. I mean, I might one day just do too much, but then I'll let my husband know, my daughter, like, hey, I've like really overdone it. I'm going to take a few days to rest, because I really have to do that. Even now when I go to the gym, if I walk 30 minutes on the treadmill, I have to have like a 3.5-hour nap. I know that sounds crazy, but I just don't bounce back like most people. But I've learned, okay, you just got to go slowly, and easy does it. Not this bull in a china shop that I have been my whole life. Push, push, push.
Yeah. So one of the things we looked at was the 8 elements wheel, wasn't it? You know, to well-being. And that looks at different areas in your life, like your physical environment, your nutrition. We look at relationships, emotional health and movement, lifestyle and pace, life purpose. And we've gradually worked our way kind of around the wheel. I think you're probably on it to the second or third time now. I think one thing that I think has struck me about you is you have been like a sponge, and you've been so diligent, I have to say, you know, doing the homework, as we call it. Yeah, even the things that you found really challenging, like journaling, you know, finding time for the self-care, that's another biggie, isn't it? You know, but gradually you're beginning to realize that you can't give out until you've got to give this in here, haven't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to start with yourself. And that was the thing, that because I was so proud of looking after my family, you know, husband and my daughter, cooking, cleaning, taking care of everything. But it was when I look back, it's like, oh my gosh, Joanne, you're like you're trying to not let anything slip. Like, I was always there for Richard, my husband, whenever he needed me, and the same with Izzy. But I realized I just felt like I was just this train, just keep going, and it was like something's got to give, because I wasn't giving anything to myself, because I was so happy and proud that, oh, I'm keeping them going and everything's perfect for them. But I was struggling and really suffering for it, but didn't realize that until you've helped me see that, okay, well, what about Joanne? Huh? Well, what about me? You know, it was like, oh, I can think about me. I can do stuff at me, really? But then I had to learn how to do it. I just had to learn the steps, which you helped me with. And you just kept very gently reminding me. And I think it probably took me a few times before I got it, but I did get it. And it stuck. And now I realize, and I know I have to have my limits. I have to pace myself. And I have to be good to Joe. I have to do those things for myself, else I'll just be on that runaway train, and I won't get better. But yeah, I'm truly, truly grateful for all your insight, wisdom, and help. It's been absolutely amazing.
Thank you. So the one thing that I remember quite distinctly is when we were looking at the well-being wheel when it comes to relationships, and I generally split it into 4 areas. So we have family, friends, significant other, and relationship with self. And I can remember this absolute total silence and blank expression on your face to say, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever given myself a thought. No. And maybe again, something my mom did. She did the cooking, cleaning, full-time job, three daughters and a son. And she just pushed through. And I know she does. She's made comments to me about, oh, well, I've managed it and I had 4 children. But I realized with the help of you, yeah, I'm not my mom. We're 2 totally different people. We've had different traumas and we've dealt with things very differently. And So yeah, but I realized obviously I've done sort of what my mum's done, and it was bad habit, and I see that she struggles to this day with stuff, and it doesn't matter what I say, she doesn't get it, and some people aren't going to get it, and take the bull by the horns and ride this bull. I was ready to, because if I didn't do that, I knew there was only one way out for me, and that was I would have probably collapsed or just died, because I just was pushing myself so hard. So yeah, I wanted to learn. I wanted to stay here. I wanted to be here for my family and Richard and my daughter, and for me, I want to see Isabella grow up and have a beautiful life and be there to see all those things, and it pains me to know that my dad has missed out on so much. He has 10 grandchildren that he never got to meet, and they're all so brilliant in different ways. It breaks my heart, but I just keep faith that he's up there, he's watching over all of us. But I would have loved for him to have met them in the flesh.
Mm-hmm. And you've had to make some quite difficult decisions along the way, haven't you, about lifestyle, people that are in your life as well.
Yeah.
That's been quite challenging, but you've also having a wonderful job of showing Izzy how things can be different. That's your daughter, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and
wonderful.
Yeah, Richard and my pride of joy. I mean, I was told I wasn't going to be able to have children because of my thyroid, PCOS, endometriosis, all those things. And we were very, very fortunate. I mean, we did go through IVF and IU, and we weren't successful on a few occasions. And then I think we relaxed a little bit, and we actually got pregnant on our own in the end. And she really is our rainbow child and our pride and joy. And we want the absolute best for her. And I do see the benefit for me looking after me finally, and my husband being on board and being my supporter. She gets to see that environment, and hopefully it will instill it in her that, yeah, she is not to accept anything less, that she'll meet a good person, a husband that will be supportive of her and live a good life. But she is learning, and it's so funny, the journey that she's come on with me. She is picking up things. She is speaking up for herself. Yesterday she sent me a text. She said, "Mom, is this okay?" And it was a text to her teacher, because Izzy's very quiet, and there's this one teacher that says, "Oh, get into groups and you can work in groups." Well, every time they get into groups, she's new at this school. She doesn't know many people. She hasn't made that many friends yet. She's always with these same two people, and they don't talk much either. But she's probably a little bit more talkative than they are. So she tends to guide whatever they're doing. She tends to guide the whole thing. And she's like, "This isn't fair." But she sent an email to the teacher yesterday and let me read it. And I said, "Yeah, it's brilliant. Send it." So she sent that yesterday. And she's got a voice like, oh my gosh, she's learning to speak up for herself. I would never in a million years dreamt of doing anything like that. I would never have said anything. I'd have been quiet, and I would have shut up, and I would have sucked it up. Is exactly what I'd have done. So I can see she's learning from me, and I encourage her all the time. Izzy, if anything's going on, to talk to us so we can be there to hear you and help you. And I just love how it's like, she's only 13 and a half, but she acts like a 23-year-old. I know when I was her age, I was having fun in the streets, playing with my friends and stuff, but she's so much more mature than I was. And it's so lovely to see how she's growing. And I think a healthier person, because I'm learning this isn't the way to do it. This is the way to be. And then she will pick up some of those things. And she is, and she's such a delight. All A student, very, very, very proud mama.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you had some advice to give to people who are listening today,
yeah,
what might it be?
Definitely slow everything down. I know we can all get really impatient, and I think I was a little bit impatient because it was like, why have I got to sit here and rest? Like, I didn't understand. I hadn't quite connected the dots in the very beginning until I started to see other people that were recovering too, but they were talking about slowing it down and not overdoing it and pacing themselves. I heard the stories of the ladies that have been in wheelchairs and they've made the few steps to the door a few days in a row, then they go to maybe to the gate. That's where it sort of had a hold on me. I thought, oh, okay, so even just that little bit is something, but you're building something very slowly, but you have to be patient with it, because us A-type personalities, we're not patient. That's one of my biggest stories, to like learning hurdles, obstacles. I've had to realize, Joanne, you can't do everything like now and be perfect, and just all these things that I was putting this pressure on myself. I've realized, you know what, take a breath now, just pace it out. Don't go mad and think you've got to do all the house cleaning all in one day, which is what I used to do. Like, pick a room, maybe wait a few days, pick another room. Don't feel like I had to. And then some weeks, if you don't feel like cleaning because you're so tired, then don't clean. I've had to learn to not do those things, and just take space. But also, you have to reward yourself. You have to do nice things for yourself. I remember you really instilling that in me. And at first it was a bit foreign. But now I try to make time for myself. I've got a little bit off track with this move because we just moved.
Yeah.
But I actually have my exfoliation foot mask here, Carole, still. I will do it today, I promise. And that was the good thing too, because you held me accountable for that, which I sort of needed, because in the beginning, if I wasn't held accountable, I think I would just forget. But now I realize, okay, you do need to take time out. Maybe go get some reflexology with a friend. Just go to lunch and take time out and be away from the house and the environment. Go outside. And I do love it where we've moved to, because there's lots of trees and animals that I can hear. And it is so lovely to just go sit out there, and I feel like I can breathe at this house. The other environment at my other house, a beautiful home, but it was very dark. I kept it dark because it was it's so hot. So I was keeping everything dark to keep everything cool, but I didn't realize it was having an impact on my, just how I felt. I just didn't feel right, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. But moving to this home, north-south facing, I can have the light in and the house isn't baking up. And it's beautiful. And I feel I probably wouldn't have even pushed hard enough to move here if it wasn't for you, Carole.
Talking of light, I'm just going to shut my curtains. We've had this big hedge cut in half today, and suddenly we've got daylight streaming. I've just realised you're getting blinded by the light.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would have actually pushed my husband. I would have just sucked it up and thought, because my husband loved the other house. He loved it there. And I get why he did. And he didn't want to get a big mortgage, because, you know, that one was supposed to be just about paid off. So I get it. But I think he sees the difference. Actually, I'm the one that's now happy. I see he's struggling with all the issues that we're having to fix. But I keep telling him, look, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I just have to keep reminding him, like, hey, I'm taking care of it. It's all good. And so I think he's happy with that. He's like, okay, if you can take care of that while I'm working. And so he's good with that. And I think just another couple of months, I think we'll be where we need to be.
Yeah. And we've talked about how important environment is, haven't we? You know, and if I walked into the house, how would I know Joanne was there? And beforehand, I wouldn't have known at all, would I? But now there's parts of you around the place, and you've got your own special office and everything, haven't you, that you can go to if you need to. And
exactly, I've got my own space. It's funny, at the other house, I had a few, I think I had about 4 or 5 pictures up, at this house, I've got more pictures of my family that I can see. There's little touches that we've done to just make it ours. It feels more like us to have the space, and just to be able to go out. Me and my husband and my daughter, we'd love to go and sit outside, and just chat and be there till 8-9 o'clock at night. It's just nice to get outside, and because it doesn't get dark too early here. I think it's about 6:30, 7 o'clock here at the minute, but it's just so beautiful, and it's getting cooler at night too. So this is like the perfect place for us, and just just the feel that we've got and the space. Yeah, it's just a whole different feeling. Once I get the electrics taken care of and the cooker, I think we'll be good.
I mean, I know it's not been without its own challenges. So I wonder if you could just chat a little bit about how you managed some of that transition from packing up the other house, to moving into this one where, again, you were kind of met with some challenges which you didn't know about, and how you manage that now.
So because I knew it was going to be a lot for me to do the move, and I wanted to do some of it, I didn't want the movers to do all of it, thinking it would make it easier for them. That was a mistake, and it wasn't. So what I did, I was packing, in fact, actually, because we were supposed to move in 2018, and I had packed up a bunch of stuff and it was in the garage, and I never brought that stuff back into the house. So some of the stuff was already packed, and then I spent about 4 months slowly packing. So I did a little bit at a time. We packed things, and we started to move stuff to the garage, just so that we had things boxed up, because that does take a lot of time and a lot of boxes. So I even took the time to go on. There's an app called OfferUp over here, and anytime anybody was getting rid of moving boxes, I would drive over and take the lot if I could. And so I was picking up. I really had it in my mind. I knew what I had to do. I had to have lots of boxes. I was going to have to make lots of trips, but I would space it out, and I would work hard, maybe half a day packing things, and I would take my breaks. And then when it came to the actual move, when we were really getting into the last bit of it, I said to my husband, look, I might have to take breaks every 15 minutes. And we would both really work hard loading the truck, and I'd be right, stop. Let's sit down. And we had 2 chairs in the garage. So we would sit down and we would both sit and chat for a little bit, get our breath. And that was down to you too, Carole, because you would remind me, Joanne, don't forget. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, because I know I will get carried away.
Yeah.
But there were times when I was feeling tired, and I thought, I was like, yeah, my body's saying I have to stop right now. And so I did. And even in fact, I remember when we were moving the things now into this house, because that was a little bit of a nightmare when I got here. The house was absolutely filthy. And I really wanted a clean house. We'd left our house immaculate. We got here, we had the truck for 2 days. And the first day we were here unloading, we knew we had to have the truck back the next morning, and we weren't even half empty. But Richard kept pushing and pushing. And in the end, I could tell I was like starting to trip over things. I couldn't talk. I was losing my word. And I said, honey, enough. We need to go home now, and we need to go detox, have a detox bath or something. And we need to go to bed, and we need to probably get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and come back. So he was quite resentful about having to do that, but he did. And we went home. I had a long detox bath, and I went to bed, and I was fine because we'd been drinking all day, stayed on top of things. My husband, on the other hand, he didn't have the detox bath. I did encourage him to do that. And literally within 5 minutes of us getting into bed, he's screaming because the pain in his legs, I guess probably the electrolytes or something, he had obviously just burned it all up. He was in such pain. I was having to rub his legs because they were cramping so bad. But I think he took a leaf out of my book from there, because he realized, okay, well, Joanne's been alongside me all day, but she's doing okay. And yet he wasn't. And we were able to get up at 2 o'clock and get our things out of the truck and get the truck back, even with a half an hour to go, because I realized I just knew we had to go easy and not keep pushing. He would have carried on till 10 o'clock that night, I think.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have got the truck back the next day. So
yeah. So old habits definitely changing.
Definitely.
Making for a much happier Joanne, a much happier home.
Yeah.
Much happier family.
Yeah.
So where to from here for Joanne?
Oh, I know. Actually, it's funny because I think, as you know, I'd been struggling a little bit. I've had a bit of nerves with doing my coaching now. So I'm hoping to help people with the same issues that I've had, because I think people get it when they know that you've been through it, that you really understand, you know, those struggles. So yeah, I'm hoping to complete my coaching. I don't know how long it'll take. I'm guessing it'll probably take about 6 months. I've actually started to dive into my homework yesterday, and I actually felt good about it. And as I was going through it, I was like, wow, I was stressing about this, and maybe it's actually not as much as I thought it was. But again, I'm just doing a few hours a day. Again, just doing a little at a time.
We had a little conversation about this, didn't we, earlier in the week?
Yes. So I have been, and I have when I've needed to rest, because with all the things going on at the house, it has been quite draining, because I feel like I'm juggling the balls and trying to do my thing too. But now I have the house is empty. This is my second day of having an empty house in about, I don't know, nearly 3 years, I think. I can actually start to focus properly on me, but I need to make sure that I keep that. And when my house is not empty and it is busy, I still need to remember to still focus on what Joanne needs and what Joanne wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. So as far as all those symptoms were when you first came to see me, what's happening with those now?
Well, it's funny because I was doing really well. Like it felt like somebody had waved a magic wand and they'd just gone. I was able to get up in the morning, go to the bathroom without my feet hurting. And because I don't even think I mentioned this, but I used to wake up with really painful hands too. My hands would hurt so bad. That's gone. I've had a few headaches this last week, but I think it is just because of the stress of trying to still get these electrics taken care of and our cooktop. But no, I feel really, really good. I feel, even though I'm heavier in weight, I actually feel like lighter in myself. Like I can move around easier. I do notice though, when I start to get that pain, I'm now learning that I need to check in and go, okay, where's this coming from, and what's happening that this pain is. So I've now put the 2 and 2 together, because that was hard for me. I've realized, okay, there's an emotion or there's something going on that's probably external that I need to check in with. I haven't quite figured it all out, but I realized, okay, something's going on. Let's figure this out and let's tune in and feel, where is that in the body, and what is it, you know, what's the emotion behind it. I'm learning. I'm not all there. I need a bit more practice with it, but I really feel I'm getting there for sure.
Yeah.
I feel fantastic.
Yeah. That's so good to hear, and it really, you know, gladdens my heart. You know, you've got a life, haven't you? And I won't say a life back, because we don't want the old life, do we? We want something that's new, exciting, joyful, you know, something where you get pleasure every day, just being alive. Yeah.
And actually, I didn't say this part, but I haven't had depression in as long as I can remember, Carole, because I was also on depression medicine from the age of about 13. Wow. Till actually, I mean, I gave up on the depression medicine about 7 years ago, but I still was having depression bouts. But I haven't felt depressed in so long. It's sort of weird, because now it's like, oh, I wonder if, I just don't even know if my body would know how to be that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, oh yeah, I just don't think that can happen anymore, because I feel so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been amazing.
Yeah. So by listening to yourself, what is it I want, what is I need, those are the 2 questions we're constantly asking, isn't it, of ourselves. It can make all the difference. And
if you forget, like I did a lot, you put it on a big piece of paper and you stick it on your mirror in the morning so you see it all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It does take a while because those are bad habits that we've been doing for, say, 50 years. It's hard. You can't switch them over in a month, or sometimes it might take 4 or 5 years to figure this out. But at least if you're taking the steps, it's the steps in the right direction. And we all trip up, and we all, fall back a little bit. But that's another thing. I don't beat myself up now. I remember that's something else you taught me, like to not beat up on myself. Like, I've been beating myself up for 50 something years. Like, that's got to go. There's so many things you've taught me that have really helped in me feeling better. And I am aware now when I am beating up on myself, and I can really switch it. I know that change your thoughts, change your life. I really, really believe that. And we can come out of depression if we change those horrible, dreaded thoughts and make them something positive. That's been huge for me too.
Yeah. And we did quite a bit of work on beliefs as well, didn't we? And we're still doing a little bit of work on beliefs, because it's like any onion. As you peel it, you keep going down further, and further into the layers, don't you?
Yeah, and I'm learning about triggers and those old beliefs, and I'm starting to speak to myself more positively as well. And yes, now I'm learning to sit and actually feel this in my body. Where am I feeling it? What's the emotion behind that? It takes time. I know you've been helping me with that, and I haven't quite got it yet, but I know I'm heading there. I'm making steps forward, and I can't wait to master it, because I'm hoping to be like other people that are like, I love to be triggered, because then I get to dig and figure out what this is about. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm not there yet, but I'm hoping you can teach me that, Carole. I know I'm getting there, though.
I always see these as opportunities of another learning, so in fact, just like you said, we just welcome them in, and don't fight against them, accept them for what they are,
and learn from them.
with them, and it may take a day or 2 or 3 or whatever it does, but with that and the journaling and looking at the belief, rationalizing it, has it got legs, is it something I learned from childhood, actually isn't anything to do with me, it can really make a difference when we start to look at these things.
Definitely.
Yeah. And you're so diligent, I have to say. No sooner have I suggested something and then you're on it.
Yeah, again, it's that A-type personality, and I love it, because it's also, I'm learning, and I do really love to learn. Because the more you learn, the more knowledge and power you have, really. And it really has a huge impact on my life. So that's why I love to get at it. When you give me stuff to do, I'm going to try and if I don't understand it, I know it's okay for me to ask you, like, okay, I'm not getting this. What's the purpose or the point? But you always gently help me understand things that I don't get. And I know I've looked at you so many times blank because I just didn't get it. And like you said, you don't know what you don't know. That's why you need a coach to help you figure those things out. So hopefully I've been a really good student.
Absolute A-star. Absolute A-star.
I've loved it, and I know I still need to work on myself, but I know with you there, I'll keep going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, any client that I work with, it's such a special relationship. And I mean, we've built up an amazing relationship, haven't we?
Yeah. Oh, I love you, Carole.
I learn as much from you as I do, you do from me. And I think that's the lovely thing about this work. It's, it creates a real sense of connection, a real sense of community.
Yeah.
And it takes time. Some people are lucky to have those book, signs of recoveries, but they're very few and far between. And, when we've lived our whole life in, this emotional stew, as you might call it, or with all these stresses, it's difficult to unpick because it all becomes such a mess, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, because we've learned how to disassociate and stuff. And I didn't even sort of know what that was at first. And then it was like, oh, okay. So I've done all these things, just pushed everything down just to survive. And so it's a survival mechanism. It's not the best one, but that's what we did as kids and to add adult life to get by. But you've helped me like really pick that open. Like you said, the onion, you've peeled the layers for me to be able to really see. Yes, it's good because it's a coping mechanism, but now let's do something different so that you're not going to feel this pain through your body and feel ill and tired and exhausted. Let's make different choices to have a better outcome.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what's happening.
Yeah. So what might be your next steps, and what else do you want to work with?
With coaching or?
Well, whatever springs to mind.
Here's one of those blank moments, Carole. I'm like, I think because I'm focusing right now on trying to get my coaching certificate. It's like that's what I'm heading for now. And then I hope to work with people just like you. And of course, I would love to work with you too. To help people that are struggling like I have, I know you have, for many, many years and just don't know where to go. I want to sort of let more people know there is help out there. Don't always listen to these doctors. They tell you can't recover. That's wrong. I'm living proof. I always knew that I could be better and get well. I just didn't know how to. You've shown me how to, and I'm living proof. So it really frustrates me. This is why I don't often, and there is a place for Western doctors, don't get me wrong, but it infuriates me that then they need to learn this stuff because I think they would have so much more success. And the poor NHS, I know it's on its knees. Boy, this would probably save a lot of money if they got people this kind of help that are constantly going to the doctor every week, every month, because they're having this pain now and this is happening. We need to look at medicine so differently to how we had been. And this is a lovely holistic approach. And that's what I love about it. And I want to do that with you. That's my ultimate goal, to get as good as you are.
Oh, bless you. That's very kind.
I'm afraid because I just don't think I'm going to be, but that's what I would love to achieve. Yeah. And to be able to help people.
You know, my son said to me once, different is not wrong, Mum. And he's so right. We've got so many common threads, all of us, haven't we? We've gone through this recovery pathway.
Yeah.
But we all have different things as well. But it unites us in a really strong way.
Yeah.
And I think to be able to work alongside people when you've been through your own recovery journey is the absolute best job in the world. It's not really a job, is it? No,
it isn't. It's you get enjoyment at seeing somebody light up because this is better. Yeah, I was going to say something and it's just completely gone out of my mind, which is a typical thing for people like us. But your son's right. Even though we've gone through different experiences, I think what it is, just knowing that somebody understands, they get it, and you actually finally feel heard and understood. That's a huge part of it. Whereas doctors don't have time to understand and hear you. I think it's 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, well, depressed. Okay, here's a pill for that. We have to look at things on a very different level, really get inside of somebody and their makeup and what they've been through and the traumas in life. And we've all had traumas. And it makes sense that, the body keeps the score. When you're not dealing or processing something, that's going to sit in your body until you do figure that out. So I do think that's probably, you've been helping me figure these things out, and I've had the light bulb moments that it's like literally like, bink, that pain goes away. Bink, it's crazy because I was a little bit skeptical, to be honest. I was thinking, really, is this really going to make the difference? But to be able to walk around my bedroom in the morning, to go to the bathroom and not be hobbling like an old lady. Honestly, I was like an 80, 90-year-old lady trying to get to the bathroom. And I'm not like that now. And I can walk around my house, and it's amazing. Just, it's like triumphant. It's just, if I could reach out to anybody that's struggling and is skeptical, please do yourself a favor and get a coach, get those things that you don't know. Because I know I couldn't have done it by myself. As however much I read, however much I looked online, I did need the help of a coach.
Thank you, Joanne. And I'm afraid on that note, we've run out of time. I've just got a little notice come up. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your story. You've been absolutely brilliant. Thank you for being so honest as well.
Thanks, Carole.
Thank you.